Oh, it's Friday, August 11th, 2017. You are listening to Inception Radio Network, voice of the fringe majority. This is Carol Carl with UFO Headline News. Well, they're almost at their peak, and then, well, we'll wait till the next time around. The Perseids, they're peaking this weekend, August 11th and 12th, and August 12th and 13th. Those are those peak nights for 2017's Perseid meteor shower. Watch from late evening until dawn on both nights. The greatest number of meteors typically fall in the wee hours before dawn, and on a moonless night, you can often spot 50 or more meteors per hour. But, of course, this year is far from moon-free. In fact, this broadcaster just said hello to the morning moon. In 2017, a bright waning gibbous moon lights up the sky after midnight. Still, the Perseids are well worth watching. A good percentage of these meteors should be bright enough to overcome moonlit glare. And plus, you can minimize the moon to maximize your enjoyment of the meteor shower. It's possible to see and photograph bright meteors in moonlight, and according to NASA's Meteoroid Office, the Perseids have more fireballs than any other major shower. There's a cool link you can find later at UFO Headline News. You can click and find out the moonrise and moonset times in your area. The moon rises later each day. It won't rise till fairly late on August 11th, and later yet tomorrow night, August 12th. The Perseids don't fall as abundantly in those evening hours as they do after midnight, but the moon-free evening hours might offer a decent sprinkling of meteors. Gentle listeners in the northern hemisphere can see a smattering of Perseid meteors in the evening hours. The meteors tend to be few and far between at that time of night, although it presents the best time to try to catch those earth grazers. We touched on that briefly yesterday, those elongated, long-lasting meteors that travel horizontally across the sky. Earth grazers are rare, but most memorable if you're lucky enough to spot one. You gentle listeners in the southern hemisphere, from your point of view, the first meteors and possible earth grazers won't be flying until midnight or the wee hours of the morning that follow. In either the northern or the southern hemisphere, the greatest number of meteors streak the sky in the first few hours before dawn. Oh, time for that coffee. The paths of the Perseid meteors, when traced backwards, appear to originate from the constellation Perseus, hence the meteor shower's name. But you don't need to know the constellation Perseus to watch the Perseid meteor shower, for the Perseids fly every which way across the starry heavens. So here's the celestial nutshell. All you need to know about the radiant point. As viewed from the northern hemisphere, the radiant sits low in the northeast sky at evening and climbs upward throughout the night. The higher the radiant point is in your sky, the more Perseid meteors you're likely to see. For the Perseids, the radiant is highest before dawn. That last is also true for the southern hemisphere, although from there, the radiant point of the Perseid meteor shower never gets very high in the sky. And that's why more meteors are seen at northerly latitudes. But if you're game, look northward in the wee hours before dawn, and you may still see Perseids. Here's some cool history. The earliest account of Perseid activity comes from a Chinese record in 36 A.D., where it was said that, quote, more than 100 meteors flew in the morning, end quotes. Numerous references to the August Perseids appear in Chinese, Japanese, and Korean records throughout the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th centuries. Meanwhile, according to ancient Western lore, the Perseid shower commemorates the time when the god Zeus visited the mortal maiden Danae in the form of a shower of gold. Zeus and Danae became the parents of Perseus the hero, from whose constellation, the Perseid meteors radiate. The Perseid meteors happen around this time every year, as Earth in its orbit crosses the orbital path of comet Swift-Tuttle. Dusty debris left behind by this comet smashes into Earth's upper atmosphere, lighting up the nighttime as fiery Perseid meteors. The meteors start out slowly in the evening hours, begin to pick up steam after midnight, and put out the greatest number in the dark hours before dawn. So here is ye old bottom line. Expect these next 2 nights, the nights of August 11th and 12th, and August 12th to 13th, to present the peak nights of the 2017 Perseid meteor shower. It's a big year in the heavens. Here's a headline: Solar Eclipse Facts from NASA Scientists. We found this at the website popsugar.com. It gets a byline for Anne-Marie Alcantara, who writes, "After months of waiting and planning, the solar eclipse is finally almost here. Maybe you're one of the lucky ones traveling to catch a glimpse of the solar eclipse in action. Or perhaps you're someone who has to sit this one out at work and wait for the next solar eclipse in 2024. Whatever the case, 6 NASA scientists took part in a Reddit Ask Me Anything. They answer all the eclipse-related questions. Noah Petro, a NASA postdoctoral student, Alexa Halford, a contractor at NASA Goddard in Maryland, Mitzi Adams, solar scientist from NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center, Bill Cook, head of NASA's Meteoroid Environment Office, and Jay Herman and Guoyan Wen, both atmospheric scientists. They answered a variety of questions and stressed the importance of solar eclipse safety. Here's what they revealed. Halford and Cook both mentioned this: animals definitely react to the eclipse. Yes, animals might react a bit strangely to the eclipse. Cook wrote that, quote, "Animals will exhibit twilight behavior," end quotes. This could include seeing ants heading back up to their mounds or chickens going to sleep. And though animals don't necessarily know, as humans do, that a solar eclipse is coming, they, quote, "have enough common sense not to look at the sun during the solar eclipse," end quotes. Here's another interesting note. If you're not in the, quote, "path of totality," end quotes, of the solar eclipse, you won't be able to tell the difference. According to Herman, quote, "your eyes will adapt to the change," end quotes, and the light difference won't be that much. It'll be like looking toward the sky between noon and late afternoon. A little less bright, but nothing crazy, they say. Here's another hint. If you can't catch the eclipse now, waiting for it is okay. The next solar eclipse will be here in 7 years, and waiting for that might be your best interest if you're in the northeast. Cook writes that, quote, "the 2024 eclipse will be certainly more geographically convenient," end quotes, for people in that area. Here's another one. NASA can, quote, "calculate eclipses many centuries ahead," end quotes. With the help of computers, NASA can easily find out when eclipses will happen. Herman wrote that knowing, quote, "the motions of the planets and moons with high accuracy," end quotes, is what allows them to do this. However, as Cook pointed out, the only questionable part of their calculations is, quote, "the slowdown and the rate of the Earth's rotation," end quotes. Here's another cool thing. Astronauts on the International Space Station will also be able to see the eclipse. Well, yes and no. The astronauts will only be able to see the shadow it creates on Earth. So while they'll be experiencing a byproduct of the event, they won't be able to see it in full from the ISS. Here's another thing. The solar eclipse will be used for research purposes. Scientists will use the solar eclipse to study the inner portion of the solar corona. It helps them to, quote, "better understand the transport of older storms, which, if Earth direct, can drive geomagnetic storms and space weather," end quotes. Adams added that it's part of the sun that our current space equipment doesn't get to explore. And this thing, it'll be the first solar eclipse some see in their lifetime. You might have noticed that this particular solar eclipse is getting a lot of attention. Herman thinks it's both because of social media and that for some people it's the first one they've ever had a chance to see. Cook also believes that it's because this particular eclipse is so unique. Quote, "this eclipse is the first one since 1918 in which the moon's shadow cuts across the United States, which is a fairly rare occurrence. Practically the entire country is within a day's drive of the path of totality," end quotes, Cook wrote. The team answered a lot more questions, and you can read them in full on that Reddit page. There'll be a link later at ufoheadlinenews.com. And Anne-Marie Alcantara, who wrote this, ends it with, "For now, you can start your countdown to August 21st. In other space news, we grabbed this story from The Telegraph. It gets a byline for Nicola Harley. Lots of sources are carrying this same thing. They seem to have the most concise approach. Here we go. Headline: Scientists discover 2 habitable planets, hailing them as, quote, optimal targets for interstellar colonization, end quotes. 2 potentially habitable super-Earths orbit a star just 12 light-years away that's our nearest sun-like neighbor, scientists have discovered. The worlds at the edges of Tau Ceti's habitable zone belong to a solar system of 4 rocky planets similar in size to Earth. British-led astronomers speculate that the system might be a potential candidate for future interstellar colonization. But life on the new outposts may be far from peaceful. There is evidence of a massive debris disk circling the star, increasing the chances of the planets being pounded by asteroids and comets. A key aspect of this discovery was the detection of exoplanets with masses as low as 1.7 times the Earth, making them the smallest worlds ever spotted around a sun-like star. The scientists used that wobble method of planet finding. It measures the influence of gravitational interaction on a star. As the planet orbits, it causes its parent star to wobble by a tiny degree. Astronomers can see the signature of this effect in the star's light. Lead researcher Dr. Fabo Feng from the University of Hertfordshire said, quote, "We're getting tantalizingly close to observing the correct limits required for detecting Earth-like planets. Our detection of such weak wobbles is a milestone in the search for Earth analogs and the understanding of the Earth's habitability through comparison with these," end quotes. Sun-like stars hold out the best hope of finding planets beyond the solar system that host life. Tau Ceti, a favorite destination of science fiction writers, is very similar to the Sun, both in size and brightness. Like the Sun, it has a habitable zone, that Goldilocks zone where everything is just right, a narrow region around it where conditions are favorable for Earth-like life. Conditions just right for surface water to exist as a liquid. A habitable zone planet could have oceans, lakes, and rivers. Neither of Tau Ceti's super-Earths lie in the center of its habitable zone. One orbits on the inner border and the other on the outer border. The Earth is situated halfway between the middle of the Sun's habitable zone and its inner boundary. This group of astronomers analyzed starlight wavelength data obtained from the European Southern Observatory in Chile and the Keck Observatory on Mauna Kea, Hawaii. Their findings are to be published in the Astronomical Journal. Co-author Dr. Miko Twomey, also from the University of Hertfordshire, said improved techniques were making it easier to distinguish between light signals caused by the presence of planets and stellar activity. 2 Tau Ceti signals, previously identified in 2013, are now known not to have a planetary origin. But, said Dr. Twomey, quote, "No matter how we look at the star, there seems to be at least 4 rocky planets orbiting it. We're slowly learning to tell the difference between wobbles caused by planets and those caused by stellar active surface. This enabled us, in this case, to verify the existence of those 2 outer, potentially habitable planets in the system," end quotes. Oh, but far from the end of story. You can count on the fact we will keep you apprised to the best of our ability here at UFO Headline News on Inception Radio Network. Oh, don't forget to check us out over the weekend. We go off the beaten path, stories that just don't fit into the parameters of the week. We try to keep you updated on the latest archaeological digs, Bigfoot sightings, etc. You get the drift. It's off the beaten path, so join us over the weekend. Same station, same times, same bat cave. What a job description this is. China is looking for someone to run the world's largest telescope. Yep, we grabbed this from the website futurism.com. Byline for Carla Lant. China is searching for a uniquely qualified radio astronomer to run the newly constructed FAST telescope in southern China. Once it's operational, the telescope is expected to generate data about dark matter, dark energy, and other unexpected data as well. They're offering a salary of about $1.2 million a year to run the biggest radio telescope in the world. It's located in a remote area of southern China. The telescope, called the 500-meter Aperture Spherical Telescope, that susses out to FAST, It's almost twice the size.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
As of the nearest comparable facility in the world, which would be the Arecibo radio telescope in Puerto Rico, operated by the United States. According to the South China Morning Post, China is searching for a foreigner to run FAST because no Chinese astronomer has ever run a facility of its complexity and size. They've been advertising this position since May, but so far no qualified applicants have shown up. This is explained in part by the stringent requirements that accompany this post, which include a minimum of 20 years of experience in the field, a professorship of equally senior role in a world-class university or research institute, and a previous leading role with extensive managerial experience on a large-scale radio telescope project. Texas A&M University astronomer Nick Sunzeff, who worked on the dark energy discovery and is part of the team overseeing construction in Chile of the optical giant Magellan telescope, said that there are around 40 or so astronomers worldwide who meet those qualifications. Radio astronomy is relatively small compared to other astronomy disciplines, apparently. Another reason for the difficulty in filling the role may be that American scientists are not entirely convinced of FAST's potential. Compared to the similar Arecibo radio telescope, FAST has an effective size of 400 meters. However, Arecibo can transmit radio waves to identify near-Earth asteroids and other targets, whereas FAST is solely a passive instrument designed to pick up signals, potentially from alien civilizations. Still, FAST does have tremendous scientific potential. Once it's up and running, it's likely to yield some interesting data. Since it is located at a very quiet radio site, and it is the world's largest filled aperture telescope, these conditions mean it will offer far more surveying speed and raw sensitivity than Arecibo. It will also cover 2 or 3 times more sky than Arecibo does. With this much more enhancement all around, FAST is likely to generate data about known mysteries like dark energy and dark matter, as well as those before referred to unexpected discoveries. We'll keep you posted. Settled back now, we've got a long, lovely story from UFOstalker.com. It's a sighting from Jimena de la Frontera, Andalusia, Spain. This is MUFON case number 85800. The date of this sighting is August 7th, 2017. It was reported August 10th, 2017. In summary, our witness says, bright flash of light, changed course, appeared to spiral, streaked off. You'll see that there are 2 texts you can click that accompany this report. They're maps, basically. One map notes the installation of a military nature compared to the location of the witness, who is defined as, quote, me, end quotes. Sighting specifics give us a viewing distance unknown, an altitude likewise unknown. The sighting duration was 10 minutes. Object features just reported as unknown. The flight path was a straight line path, then a directional change, and then a path that included hovering. And this object shape is said to have been flash. So picture this. Because the temperatures in Spain have been so hot, we have taken to sitting out on the roof terrace in the late evening to enjoy the coolness and look at the night sky. On Monday, we were looking out at the bright full moon, which was in the southern aspect of the sky. The lower horizon was fairly misty in the valleys coming up from the coast, so the moon was beautiful because it was so bright. I was curious as to how many stars we would see. Looking up towards the northeast, my eye caught a bright flash of what could have been a star just uncovered by a cloud, then covered again. However, there wasn't a cloud in the sky. Curiosity made me keep looking into that area of the sky to try to figure out if this was a plane, and figure that trajectory. I know it was not a satellite, as we had observed one a few days previously as a single light traveling in a straight line across the sky. We watched it go from south-southeast to north-northwest. No trail, nor was it a shooting star. We see those regularly. I pointed this out to my husband, who confirmed that he too saw it, and its erratic placement in the sky. There was a second flash, about 8 seconds later, heading towards the east. The next flash was back towards the north. So I sat down in order to frame the area I was watching. I used the posts and poles of the terrace to have a reference in case I was wobbling. The next few flashes, I noted the direction changes were random, as if it were spiraling or looping the loop. The time interval between flashes varied between 3 and 12 seconds apart. As I was watching and anticipating where the next flash would be, I noticed that associated with the flash was a pinpoint of light that I could follow with the naked eye. The bright flash seemed to emanate from this point every time. After a final swirl of movement that I was able to clearly see, it flashed really bright, and then the brighter dot streaked off. It left a faint trail. It went in a northwest direction and was gone. I felt intrigued and convinced that this was a UFO. One thought I had was that if it was a craft with one surface that was more reflective than the others, then as it turned in flight, it might have flashed with that reflection of the bright moon that was in the nearly opposite quadrant of the sky. And that would explain why I felt it was spiraling, almost playing. There are large eagles here that soar during the day in the Jimena area, as the village is situated at the base of a castle that had value as a strategic point in the time of the Moors and the Romans. The apparent spiraling movements of the lights reminded me of the eagle's soaring flight with the air currents, and how they can disappear from view when end on. I've spoken about this to colleagues at work. I was told that there are others who have witnessed exactly the same phenomenon in the same region, but viewed farther west. Looking east and north, this is seen over the national park. Please note, I am listing the coordinates of a supposedly top-secret United States base on my map. See File 2. Yep, that's the top-secret, quote, military installation. We don't know. The coordinates will be available later for you. Sounds like something to sleuth out with Google Earth this weekend. We just have to remain on the plain in Spain a little longer. We'll go from Andalusia to Sillo in the Balearic Islands. Try as we might, we could not find the pronunciation of this town. It's spelled S''Illot. We're saying Sillot, we're not sure, but it's in the area of Mallorca, and it means islet or little island. But regardless, here's the sighting. The specifics offer us a viewing distance of 501 feet to 1 mile. The altitude unknown. Sighting duration 5 seconds. The object features unknown. The flight path was stationary, and this object was shaped like an oval. There's no meteorology for the island, but here's the report. I was on holiday in Mallorca. It was about 9:15 p.m. when I decided to go out onto our balcony to watch the sunset. So I went out, and at about 9:20 p.m., I noticed a bright red light to the southeast. So I lifted my head up to look at it properly, and in 1 or 2 seconds it vanished. So at first I thought, oh, a plane, when I first saw it. But when this object vanished and never returned again, I felt like that was really strange. Yep, we add strange, but not uncommon. Not uncommon that this broadcast has come to a close. All the clocks in all the time zones indicate. So we're shifting our trajectory and saying we gotta fly because that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to Inception Radio Network. Check out today's broadcast at ufoheadlinenews.com, YouTube, or iHeartRadio. Take care of each other. We're all in this together. This is Carol Carl. See you tomorrow.